So there's a few products out there on the market that really talk to the usage of simulation and mobility with traffic. One of the things I want to do today is kind of get away from this PowerPoint and start talking about the actual product itself in reference to time saving. So specifically, roadway design takes many factors into account with InfraWorks and Civil 3D. One of the things that I want to talk about is based upon the traffic analysis program in reference to InfraWorks 360. One of the things that you'll be taking a look at is geographic and financial constraints, also compliance with geometric guidelines, and also safety and vehicle capacity. InfraWorks 360 addresses these issues and concerns within one model. So I know you'll probably hear about a lot of updates that's been going on with InfraWorks 360, and it's specifically to road, rail, and bridge design. I'm going to be talking about the functions that include the traffic analysis. So clearly, one of the big assets in terms of working with InfraWorks 360 is the idea that you can go anywhere in the world and grab 2D and 3D data from the model builder. So one of the things we're going to look at is I don't have something that's catered already because I want you to feel and get a feel for how the software works and some of the things you'll run into in reference to using the application. So the model builder, again, allows you to go in and grab road data, asset buildings from OpenStreetMaps, aerial imagery from Bing Maps in reference to terrain, and then also elevation data from USGS in reference to 10 and 30 meter digital elevation models. So again, anywhere in the world, and specifically since I am speaking, I'm just going to jump right in and select Atlanta, Georgia. So one of the things that allows me to do is kind of zoom in anywhere, again, on the planet in reference to a site that I want to be able to utilize. So one of the things that we're going to take a look at is we're going to define an area that we want to build our model from. So with Model Builder allows you to define a 200 square kilometer area. So based upon what I know from the Atlanta area, I'm going to pull in some data in reference to aerial. So again, road data from USGS and road maps, building data from GIS, from Bing Maps, and USGS 10 and 30 meter from the USGS website. So if I just zoom out here, I'm going to go way over here on the west side of Atlanta, and I'm going to come in over here up into Camilton Road, and I'm just going to come right into this area. So one of the things we're going to take a look at is how traffic adjusts based upon a single lane road, a double lane road, what type of traffic patterns can you create, and the kind that affect geographic, financial constraints, geometric guidelines, and also vehicle capacity. So as an example, we're looking right here along this creek. So I'm just going to define an area. So again, up to 200 square kilometers of an area that we want to bring in. So we'll just bring in a model, and I'll just pick it, and then I'll just call it Atlanta West. So then I'll create the model, and what it does is it's going to let me know that it's preparing my model. It's going to take a few minutes. It's being pushed up to the cloud, and InfraWorks 360, and if you wanted to, it specifies the details for location, time, and tracks an ID for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. So that creates my model. So in the interim, of us waiting on that model, one of the things we want to also consider, and you can see it just popped up in reference to Atlanta West. One of the other things that you can consider in reference to us waiting on that model is the interface is not problematic, it's detailed, and it's intuitive. And one of the things we want to look at is the game changer in reference to traffic simulation. So if I just pick on my model, and it takes a couple seconds here. And again, one of the things I want to be able to do is kind of show you how this software responds to things that you can do straight out of the box in reference to InfraWorks 360. So it's kind of built me a model there, and it's opening up my model. And then I'll zoom in on the model. So clearly there's some topo data, there's some aerial photography, and then also there's some road data that's been brought in. So clearly you can see that there's road data that's been brought in, and if you look, all I would need to do is select on my link, and it would actually open up that street map. So a lot of functionality in reference to InfraWorks 360. So I kind of have a site here in reference to this civil project. So what I'm going to do is kind of lay in my site really quick, and then we're going to take a look at some of these scenarios. So under my design roads, I'm just going to come in, and I'm going to select local road. And again, I'm going to do everything from scratch, and I may speed it up a little bit so we can address some of these scenarios. So I'll just pick right in here and come up. And as you can see, as I lay in my road, it's giving me a speed because my roads are based upon AASHTO standards. So I'm going to just come in here. And again, the beauty of working with InfraWorks allows me to lay out specific parameters in reference to my site. So I'm just going to put in a road. I'm just going to add a few roads in here. And one of the beauties of working with this road is now I can come in and start manipulating my curve radiuses and curve data. No big deal. A little bit of flexibility in there. And then we'll bring in some side roads. So one of the unique things that we're able to do is see that we have some topo. So if I pick on my road, one of the things I want to quickly be able to do is generate a profile. So it shows me a profile of my road. I'll just bring that right in, no big deal. And I can pick on and move things up a little bit. And if I wanted to, I can add a PVI in here. So I'll just pick on that. And I'll come right back to my design road. And then I'll add a PVI. So it's just some really quick layout in reference to what I want to be able to do. Because one of the first things I want to be able to do is I want to be able to minimize cut and fill in reference to working with these roads. One more quick PVI. We'll just add that in. And then we'll just pick on it. And now you can clearly see how I've just created that road in reference to this site. So now let's finish up by pulling in some quick other side roads. So I'll come right back and I'll select local roads and I'll just bring in some side roads. So from here, just pull it in right here. And then I'll just come right up and just double pick right there. Creates a quick intersection for me. So again, these are some of the things I just want to create to our traffic simulation. So I'll just bring in this road from here and I'll just start it right here. No big deal. Just pick on it. Take the road right there. Some really quick layout tools. And we're here. And then we'll bring in one side road from here. And as you're thinking about things, please generate some questions that you can have from me by the end of this, and then we'll just double click down here. So nice. So how simple is it to lay out road data in InfraWorks? Pretty straightforward. But now we want to start looking at this ideal of traffic simulation. So if we think about where traffic simulation comes from, it hails back way back to the 1950s in reference to how diversified, this country was going to get from decade to decade to decade. Traffic analysis, you want to be able to simulate and determine what's going to be traffic in 5, 10 years from now. So the first thing that we want to take a look at is right here we have a road that came in from GIS in terms of our InfraWorks model. We want to create a design road from that. So I'm just going to right click on it and select create design road. So something pretty simple. And you can see from this design road, the elevation is different now. So we'll just drag this over a little bit. And there's our T right there. So, and then we'll move this one over just a little bit. Okay, so that's nice. And again, if I wanted to move things around, I can do that. Clearly, if I've graded so I don't have that much cut and fill in reference to the site. So what I want to do now is I want to simulate some things in reference to traffic coming from the main road. Also, this other side road. So I'm just gonna, one of the things that you want to, because I just showed you, you can pull in road data from GIS. And a lot of the roads won't come in as design roads based upon national standards. So one of the things that the traffic analysis allows you to do, and right here, if I go to Analyze, we have a traffic simulation. So I'm just going to pick on it, and then it highlights all my design roads. So what I want to be able to do is I want to create design roads from the ones that didn't have AASHTO standards built into them. So I'll just pick an area, and as I'm picking my area, it's showing me how many zones that I'm working within. So I'm just going to go on the outskirts here. No big deal. Defining my area in reference to my site. And what that does is it automatically creates a design road here. And then here, I'm just going to hit escape one more time. I'm going to come out of this, so I'm going to exit out. And then I'm going to pick on this road just so we can simulate what that would be. So we'll just move this up so we can simulate what that intersection would look like also. So I'll come right back. Yeah, let's just make sure we're good here. So we have a pretty nice sized site here. So if I go back to traffic simulation, it's showing me that site. So one of the first things that comes up is this asset card. And it's kind of floating here, and you can move it around. And one of the things we want to be able to do is kind of simulate what would happen in an intersection, and also what would happen in a roundabout design. So if we look on our traffic study, based upon the defaults that are set up, I can go in and select to display my analysis per approach. And based upon the threshold, so when the intersection delay exceeds this value, then it's going to change to red. So I'm just going to make this really small so we can get an account. And then I can run a simulation. So then I'll select run a simulation. So this is the most basic part of working with traffic simulation, to be able to simulate what traffic would be in these areas. So let's run in a quick simulation, and then we'll get to the meats and bones of the program. So there's a couple of programs out there in reference to simulation and simulating models. There's some microscopic simulators, MatSim, SumoTrack, and VizSim, which basically function in terms of individual cars. And then also, for instance, VimSim focuses on aggregates for flow dynamics in terms of vehicles. So it's stocked with my simulation. And then if I roll my cursor a little bit, it's showing me, you know, the demand 10 out of 10, and here it's showing the Q in reference to 28 instead of 13. So it's showing me my demands per approach based upon my simulation. Let's run this just to kind of give you an idea of what would happen. So we can see some cars making some stops and some turns and things like that in reference to, and we'll zoom in on just this intersection here so we can get a good idea. So one of the things that has inquired about in reference to this traffic simulation, how do we add demands? How do we simulate how many cars? How do we make determinations, and how does a program understand on the intelligence and design level that maybe one of these might be a one-way street? How does that affect our traffic? So those are some of the things we want to really take a look at. So we have this traffic simulation, and we'll just stop it, because right now it's just based upon the defaults. And if you look down here at the bottom of my asset panel, so we'll go ahead and close that. Down here at the bottom, I could create a report in reference to that data. So what I'll be able to do is, if I right-click, it gives me my asset card, and then it also gives me this traffic analysis where I could start a new traffic study area, and also delete a traffic study area. So I'm just going to select Traffic Analyst Panel. So this Traffic Analyst Panel provides access to advanced parameters and enables multiple simulation variants. And I want to edit it. So when I select OK, it opens up my Traffic Analyst Panel. And those of you who have ventured into this already, if you're using version 5 point anything, that's not the latest version that you want to be using. So some of the things that you may see may not be in that version that you're working with within InfraWorks. So the next thing we want to take a look at is, it comes up with a viewer in reference to looking at the actual site. It also has simulation where you can simulate within that viewer what's going on in reference to the traffic. It also has analysis, actions, layers, and views in reference to the analysis panel. So I'll just bring it back, no big deal. So one of the first things that I want to do is, I want to go in, you know, I would clean up some roads and things like that. So as an example, the first thing that I want to go in is, I want to go in and tell it, what demands do I want? So right now it's set as a default, and within this default, if I go, it's kind of showing me what zones and where traffic would be coming from. So let me just zoom out a little bit. So again, very intuitive. My fifth row. My fourth row, I can kind of tell it where the vehicles would end up at in reference to how many cars are going to those destinations. Yeah, let me zoom out a little bit more so we can get a better view of that. And we'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so row 1, it's showing me specifically from the northeast entrance coming from that site. These are all the locations in reference to where a vehicle can go to. For my southwest entrance, it's showing me where the vehicles would be coming from and the destinations in reference to how to get there, and so forth. So what I want to be able to do is, coming from my main road, you know, there's going to be a lot more vehicles coming. So up in the top panel, you can clearly see that it's a quick simulation, short morning, long morning, also evening, and short and long. So for my main road, basically we can go in and tell it, you know, maybe I want 28 cars here. So, you know, typically when you're rolling down the road and you see that little rubber strip, this is how they determine the amount of cars coming to a specific area. So that's all I'm doing in essence. And from here, I can say, well, going down here, now I'm going to say 50 cars. And then from this point, cars going over here, we may have 10. So, of course, the volume is different in reference to so then I'll go to my row 3, and then row 3, from this point, we might have 5 cars that go into that subdivision. And from this point here, we might have 30. And again, we can just go in and kind of minimize and maximize what that count may be. So then from here to here, we'll put 6. And again, I'm just throwing in some numbers so we can simulate what traffic would be in reference to these locations. And last but not least, there might be 10 here, and 20 here, and maybe 5 there. So it gives me a demand editor in reference to me pushing out demands. And then my total count is 219. Then I'll go ahead and select OK. And again, pushing these parameters up. At any point in time, one of the things I want to be able to do is also sync it. So I always want to be able to sync my model in the cloud, so any changes that I make in terms of my data can be synced to the cloud. So I can run analysis all the time. So it's just syncing my model, pretty straightforward. It's not something that's going to take me an hour in reference to syncing my model to the cloud. I'm running 16 gigs RAM, pretty straightforward. I'll right click, come back to my traffic analyst panel. Now I also want to consider what's happening in my intersections. So it brings my viewer right back up. So again, I can make demands. I can also go into my intersections. So what's happening in this intersection? So right here at intersection 1 up here, you can see that we're making a right or we're making a left. So that's a stop sign. So I can go in and simulate. I can also go in and make some restrictions. So then coming out, I can either go right or straight. So I'll zoom back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change in a moment that affects this person turning right. So we're just going to select OK. We know we can go in and define specific areas based upon controlling our intersections, our ramps, things like that. So a lot of functionality in reference to what we want to be able to do. Even if I came in and said, well, what type of vehicles? You know, my behavior is standard, but I can go in and change what my behavior of my vehicles. I can change the shape, the size, the color, make it an emergency vehicle if I wanted to, have the vehicle cycle. So a lot of flexibility in terms of size and dynamics in reference to types. So, you know, traffic simulators, they can be a lot of independent, small ones out there for, you know, some real world purposes. For example, you know, that Sumo, it's used to simulate traffic roadways over in Cog, Germany, you know, when they had the World Cup over there. I mean, but the main purpose of InfraWorks traffic simulation is to give the designer or the engineer a better idea of what does and doesn't work before handing it to the engineer. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And then we also have where we can simulate, you know, actions and analysis. So I'll go ahead and close that. And then I'll come back and then I'll just run the simulation. And right now, we'll have a couple cars coming in here. So we'll just play that. And we'll start seeing vehicles adding up. Trucks, vehicles. So we can, again, simulate pretty much whatever we want in reference to the traffic simulator. And if we wanted to turn off our approaches, we could cut those approaches off in reference to us just looking at vehicles. If we wanted to create videos in reference to, we can also do that. So a lot of flexibility in terms of working with the traffic program. So I'm going to stop this simulation because I'm going to make a quick change here. So I'm going to stop this. So here in my intersection, what I want to be able to do is I'm going to pick on my intersection here. Once I come out of my simulation. So I'm going to pick on my intersection. So I'm going to do a few things to stop this. So I'm going to say, you know, from this point here, I'm going to edit this. So the beauty of working with this, again, is it's giving me this panel. So if I start picking individual areas now, so right now I can tell it to go right, or to go straight, or to make a right turn, or either or. But now I'm going to make this just a straight in and out. I'm not going to do that, but now I'm going to select my lane coming backwards. I'm going to make that 2 lanes. And then I'm going to pick up my intersection again. And I'm going to make that straight. So I'm just going to make that a one-way street where it can't make a turn there. And see how that affects this road here. So we'll come back to my traffic simulation. I'll run a quick simulation. And also, it's going to give me my physical area, how many roads, how many intersections. So we'll run a quick simulation here also. And that just takes a couple minutes, a couple seconds in essence. But if we'll come back, let me just check. Okay, we're doing okay with time. So now if I zoom in here, just kind of get an idea of what's going to happen with these vehicles. So and then we also want to be able to simulate what's going to happen here. So not too many cars coming from here, so let me make a quick change. And these are the things you want to be able to do clearly to make these determinations. So I'm going to do something just out of the ordinary. To my road geometry. I'm going to pick on this road, and I'm just going to make a change here in terms of this scenario. I'm going to move this along here. I'm going to grab my point of intersection here. And if I wanted to, I could pick on that and tell it I want a 150-foot radius. So I have some flexibility in terms of what I want to be able to do. I can minimize that or raise it, lower it. Bring that back in again. A lot of flexibility. Okay. So now again, let's take a look at what's happening here. And if we pick on this intersection, one of the things I want to be able to do is make this only one way. So if we look at lanes forward, it says one, none. So one way in, multiple ways out. And we'll pick on that intersection, and you can see that change that. So we're just going to go in here. Just zoom in here a little bit more. Pick on that. Make that straight. And I'm going to create a new area to run my simulation. So I'm just going to sync it right back up again. Now we'll find out what's actually going to be happening in reference to this intersection, the intersection from the south, and then the one up north. Okay, so I'll come back to my traffic simulation. I'll come in and I'll right-click and say I want a new traffic study area. So I'm just going to pick in here. Come across this more property here. Come here. And then double pick right there. And then if you notice right here, it's showing me that old traffic study area. So again, per approach, and then I'm going to run simulation. And again, we can change demands and things like that in reference to. I'm just doing some really quick things in reference to the program. And it'll take a couple seconds here. Let's. And again, for those of you who may be traffic engineers out there, there is a button that they are going to put in reference to importing Excel spreadsheets and text and documents that you can use to analyze also in InfraWorks 360, the traffic analysis program. So there'll be a lot of functionality that's going to be added. And again, if you have the older version, clearly you will see that there are some of the things that won't be in there. So now that we have this point here, if I right click and I am going to go to my analyst panel, and within this panel now I'm going to really up the demand here. So we can see what's going on. So now on the demands, clearly it defaulted because I went from, so let's do 100. Let's do 34. Let's do 50. Let's do 20. And again, based upon each, we're going to have a different number of cars coming in. Make sure I'm in the right places here. Okay. So, and then we'll run that simulation. So a lot more cars now, in reference to simulating. So now we're starting to back up. That becomes a problem. So we'll stop this simulation, rerun this again. You will see cars starting to back up here. So let me stop that one time. We'll go a little bit faster here. From my last approach, we're going to sync that up. We'll sync that up so we'll get that data. We'll come right back out of that. We'll go back to this asset card, and we won't do, we'll cut that off. And then this simulation, we'll go ahead and delete that simulation. And we will rerun this one. And as you can see, again, you know, better idea in terms of what's going on in reference to intersections and vehicle volume coming in. So we'll do this quick simulation to complete this. So really what this does is this saves both parties a lot of trouble. You know, it's likely that the design will need to be handled back and forth for minor changes. So if we come in here now, you can see bottlenecking up, which promotes another idea. Well, what happens if we make this intersection a roundabout? So we'll go ahead and stop that real quick. We'll cancel that. We'll right click. We'll come out of our traffic simulation, and then we'll just pick on it. And again, as simple as it is, I'm going to edit this intersection, because now I want this intersection to be a roundabout. And that's a little big for my roundabout, so I can go in and I can tell it, you know, I just want an urban single roundabout. Something as simple as that. And it updates dynamically. We can change the size of this roundabout by grip editing in terms of the island. I'll pick on it, make it smaller to a mini roundabout. I can even come in and do some grading in terms of our grading and slopes. Okay, so, and then we'll come back into our traffic program and run that simulation. And that will just take a quick moment here. So we'll do a quick simulation. And one of the other things that I want to kind of show is how I can maximize how many lots are in that site. And I'll quickly do that. And then what I want to kind of try to address questions and things like that. So in a couple minutes here, after we take a look at that, I'll try to address some questions in about 10 minutes here. If I pick, now we don't have to worry about our bottleneck here. So, you know, as we're driving down the roads, people say that roundabouts deter traffic. But clearly we can see it slows traffic down and allows traffic to flow more. And these are some of the things you want to be able to answer without putting a lot of work. So again, a game changer in terms of traffic simulation. So again, traffic simulation programs have been diversified enormously in the last 20 years. But clearly, as this picture shows, there's a lot of things that you want to be able to do, because we can render, we can create videos, we can create actual models in reference to our model. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. And one of the things I want to be able to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm going to change that back in terms of my road. So I'm just going to go back up to geometry. I mean, it's simple. Was me pulling this back here. Making that a lot smaller. Even deleting. So we're going to come right here. And if I right click, I can add points, recreate a profile, add a bridge. I can do several things. So I'll come in. Just move that back. And exit that mode here. Come right back again. And then lengthen what we have here. And all I'm doing is some grid editing. We can do those things in AutoCAD, right? Move that up a little bit. Okay, so one of the things I want to be able to quickly do is, I mean, I don't know how many lots will fit in there, but we can make a quick determination. So my styles palette, one of the things I want to be able to do is, you know, you have these certain styles where I can come in and change what I want my road to look like. So as an example, because you guys do a lot of different things, so what I want to be able to do is kind of show you a little bit of flexibility. So we have sidewalks, street with sidewalks, tunnels. We have street with lamps, divided highway, grass roads. So a lot of flexibility in terms of what we want to be able to do. We also have frontage roads. So a lot of different styles that we can utilize in reference to our roads. And if I came in, come right back to streets, we can say streets with summer hardwood or streets with palm trees. So if I just pick on this and just drag it right to here, this is the kind of flexibility that we want to be able to do. I mean, I can create whatever I want in reference to how I want that little lot. And then I want to come in on my style palette. So I'm going to come back, right, a little style that I've created here. So if I come back, it's just some really quick stuff. Just some really quick stuff. Once I catch up, and let's see my style, please, here. One more. Okay, so maybe not. But clearly the traffic analyst panel allows you much flexibility. Those features and functions of traffic analysis. So let me just do this one time here. So that's going to be that. So just features and functions. And again, the biggest piece is that it's steps ahead of any of the programs that are out there now in the market. And there's some advantages to some of those out there, but they're microscopic and macroscopic models that they use. So what I want to be able to do is, in reference to time purposes, we are going to turn this over to Chris in reference to some questions that I could address in terms of the traffic analysis panel, in terms of mobility for vehicles. So we'll turn this over to Chris.
Okay, Ken. Great. Thank you. Very informative. There are a few questions here lined up, so I'll go ahead and read a few of them. When you were setting the vehicle counts, is that vehicles per hour or per minute?
Yes. I'm sorry, what was that question, Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you were setting the vehicle counts, is that vehicles per hour or vehicles per minute?
Yeah, so you can set those vehicle counts per minute, per half an hour, any those up.
Okay. And another question, can some roads have stop signs and others not, yield signs? Can you do stoplights and set delays?
Within the, so in the traffic analysis panel, you can have it where you can have stop signs, stoplights, and even free flow. So just as a quick example, if I come into my panel under demands, we can actually tell it per intersection or per location, free flow, stop, yield, things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of put that one way in there to kind of show what the cars would do also in reference to that scenario. So you can go in based upon what's happening at the intersection. So I can do yield, giveaway, stop sign, barred, so some flexibility in terms of doing those things also.
Okay, and there was also a question about, which I think you did show, right turns and doing roundabouts. You did show the roundabout. But can you also add right turn lane? Okay.
Right turn lanes, yes, you can add in lanes. So let me come out of this. So some of the functionality that it will allow you to do is, now when you can do lanes ahead and lanes backwards, it's going to allow you to put in Let me move this. Under lanes ahead and lanes backwards. So what you can add 1 or 2 lanes, right turn, split lanes if you wanted to. So one of the other things that you also want to consider is if I open this up in Civil 3D, this data comes into Civil 3D as a corridor. And you know, Civil 3D has also, when you bring in an InfraWorks model, Civil 3D creates corridors, intersections, and bridges from the data that you create from InfraWorks. So in reference to that roundabout, a corridor will be generated. You will be able to use Autodesk vehicle tracking to use it, add slip lanes, things like that. Some of the functionality that's coming with roundabouts allows you to do that flexibility in terms of right lanes and straight and adding lanes in there also.
Okay, another question. Where has traffic simulation been in Civil 3D, and how does InfraWorks 360 future development come into play?
So with traffic simulation, so one of the things that they've kind of tried to do is they've kind of moved away from creating their own software. So they've kind of looked at other add-ons and other software applications of open source that they've kind of tried to add in with Civil 3D, and that's where Autodesk vehicle tracking has come in with Civil 3D in terms of vehicles. The traffic analysis program is in InfraWorks, because one of the things that you do in InfraWorks is more of a concept in terms of a civil infrastructure project. A lot of the concept can be done before a lot of the actual design and layout begins. So that's probably the reason why they kind of have it in this concept program application, that you can really, what if scenarios, how the design would be, how it would be handled in terms of major and minor changes. Once you start doing this with CAD, it takes a lot longer to do something like this. So it takes a lot longer to come in and say, okay, well, I want to go in and edit this. I want to change this to an intersection. I mean, how long does it take to do that in Civil 3D? So that's some of the things you want to be able to consider in terms of using InfraWorks, because it gets a lot of the concept. In Civil 3D, you would never be able to lay out this road and do that profile layout the way I did it. Do it. It's probably going to take you about 30 to 40 minutes more, opposed to 10 seconds. So those are some of the things to consider in reference to what Autodesk is trying to do in terms of implementing and buying up smaller market software applications.